Shut the fuck up! Do you know what shut the fuck up mean?
Your time is up, my time is now. You can't see me, my time is now. It's the franchise where I'm shining now. You can't see me, my time is now. In case you forgot or fell off, I'm still hot, knock your shell off. My money stacked.
You want to hear something crazy? John Cena's been using that theme song now longer than Hulk Hogan used Real American. Is that not fucking nuts? I mean, think about it. Hogan really, in total, only used his song for about 7 or 8 years max. John Cena is going on 9. Fucking crazy. But anyway, I'm back to normal, ready to rock and roll. I apologize for the lackluster piece of shit commentary last week. I was half asleep when I did it. I didn't even want to do it. Things have just been so boring lately. I haven't really wanted to come up and talk about anything, and I've been working so hard on the year-end video. I thought my time was better served just working on that. But I don't like to go, multiple weeks without coming up, so I really phoned that one in. And I fucking hate it, and I apologize for it. This one will be much better, more in-depth, and definitely longer for sure. Survivor Series is in the books. It sucked, just like we expected it to. There was absolutely nothing about this pay-per-view that was even worth buying or looking at. I did keep my eye on it, pulled up a stream, and I watched mostly what turned out to be a great game between the Patriots and the Broncos, even though it was a blowout at first. But that started capturing my attention much more than the pay-per-view. All this shit could have been done on any pay-per-view. This was almost treated as a battleground or a night of champions. This did not feel like one of the big 4 pay-per-views at all. You only had one traditional 5-on-5 Survivor Series match that involved men, which was actually great, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And you also had 2 world title matches, and neither guy dropped the belt, and we didn't expect them to. So the show was a big pile of shit, just like I thought it would be, and I'm sure all of you did too, until the last 2 minutes. Now, unlike the rest of the wrestling world that is complaining about this, I'm looking at the silver lining and everything, and the end of Survivor Series was a very telling and shocking revelation, and that is the fact that they are going to unify the belts. I don't care what you're reading on any website, they would not do this. John Cena would not come out randomly at the end of Randy Orton's match after the Authority has been talking up Randy Orton for months about being the face of the company. Here you got John Cena, the true face of the company, coming back, also winning a title. He confronts Randy Orton. They're both holding up their titles, staring each other down. There is no way this is not going to lead to a unification. Now, of course, because the evil cancer, John Cena, is involved in this thing, and for that matter, Randy Orton is too, the brain-dead IWC can't see how awesome this is. I have always wanted the WWE to combine these fucking belts. It makes no sense to have 2 world champions other than for business reasons and money. You can travel 2 shows, you can have a title defended on a house show twice in the same day, at the same time, and that sort of thing. But there's ways around that. They used to do double shots in the old days. They can figure out a way to do it again. And you can have an A show and a B show, and you know what? Maybe the B show just doesn't get a fucking world title defended on it. Tough titty. So I am absolutely elated that this is most likely going to lead to us going back to the old days when you had one fucking champion and one title belt, one trophy that everybody vies for. And then you can have the Intercontinental and the US and the tag team titles and all that stuff, but it makes no sense to have 2 world titles. I'm ready for one. And like I've been saying every time the fans get all uppity and pissed off, I say, hold on a minute. Just chill out. Don't get all bent out of shape yet. Don't worry that it's John Cena and Randy Orton and be all pissed off that Daniel Bryan's not involved. At least this isn't WrestleMania. At least we know they're probably not going to give us that match at WrestleMania now, thank God. They're getting it out of the way now. And I'm almost certain that there's no way that we're going to have any sort of a resolution after the main event in TLC. I have a feeling that whatever happens and however they book the finish in the main event between Cena and Orton, it's going to lead to a rematch and more of this talk of unifying the titles. I even threw out a scenario on Facebook and Twitter that I'm sure a lot of people thought of. Triple H says, hey, I'm hanging both of the title belts above the ring, and the guy that pulls them both down wins both titles. Well, what if one guy each pulls one down? What if they're both on top of the fucking ladder, and let's say they pull the other guy's title belt down? So that means you had 2 titles change hands, but both guys still remain champion. That's pretty fucking unique and different, and definitely hasn't been done before. It's too bad that it's a little bit predictable, and the WWE probably won't be able to go through with this because too many people will talk about it. But if that's the finish they go with, that means you had something happen and nothing happening all at the same time, and it can lead into, I don't know, some sort of a unification match down the road. Now, are they going to wait until WrestleMania? That's what I thought they were going to do. If they were going to unify these belts, I thought WrestleMania 30, could be used as a launching pad for a new era, a new decade, a new time in wrestling. This is the WWE WWE, not the NWA. You need to have one champion and one champion only, and that's it. And I think WrestleMania 30 could be a perfect place to decide who that champion is going to be. But they're starting this shit a lot earlier. John Cena coming out at Survivor Series, they got a long way to go, and they're already having a match where both titles are on the line next month, December, a pay-per-view that is just meaningless. I hate this pay-per-view, no matter what it's called. Every year, this has just been a meaningless pay-per-view, except actually for the one time they did unify these belts once before, took place at a December pay-per-view when Chris Jericho won the Undisputed title in 2001. But otherwise, this pay-per-view can just fucking go away, in my opinion, so I just think that TLC is a strange place to unify the belts. I think that's why we're hearing the stories that they want to be clear that the belts are not being unified at this pay-per-view. Something's going to happen and lead to them to be unified in the future. Otherwise, they wouldn't even go through with this. If anybody's disagreeing with me, you just fucking watch. There is no way they would even have John Cena come out there, even make this match, even have Stephanie tease in the promo, hey Hunter, we've talked about this before. They would not go through all this trouble if this wasn't the plan. So in my mind, this is the plan. WWE is going to unify the titles, and we as wrestling fans should be thrilled about this. To me, this makes the world title so much more meaningful because now you're not going to have two. You're only going to have one. Now, even though I think the WWE title is the top title and the world title is secondary, it's still a world title. Getting rid of it not only elevates the WWE title as the one title to strive for, but it possibly also elevates the US and the Intercontinental title that have been just thrown by the wayside since you've had a second world title out there. You know, the world title was almost the Intercontinental title, so now maybe all the belts just get brought up a notch as far as their significance and how valuable they are go. But of course, there's never any good news in Smarkland because, like I said, the dreaded John Cena and Randy Orton are the two guys that are vying for this thing right now, and not Daniel Bryan or CM Punk. Well, if you're paying attention to the storyline, I know I've said before, hey, watch a storyline through before you judge, and you say, hey, I did that with Daniel Bryan, you told me not to freak out about him losing the title, and look where he is now. Yeah, I see where he is now. You know where he is? He's still involved with the Authority. Is it just me, or does it seem like the Authority is trying to keep CM Punk and Daniel Bryan busy by having the Shield and the Wyatt family do their dirty work for them and keep them busy in a feud so they can't be in the world title picture, and Triple H and Stephanie can have their two big icons, you know, feuding over who will be the face of the company. And since they're starting this shit so early, I don't think there's any way in a million years that Daniel Bryan or CM Punk or both are not going to have their noses stuck in this world title picture somewhere. We got the Royal Rumble coming up. The possibilities are endless for those guys. You don't want Daniel Bryan involved in this match at this pay-per-view at TLC. Shut the fuck up. Let him team with CM Punk for a while, have his good matches with the Shield and the Wyatt family, let them do their thing, let the fans yes their asses off during all their matches, and just get off on the fact that CM Punk and Daniel Bryan are on a tear together. Let John Cena and Randy Orton do their shit, and then when you get into next year and it becomes Royal Rumble time, then you'll get to see truly what the plans for both of those guys might be. And I wouldn't be surprised to see CM Punk win the world title at the Royal Rumble and drop it to Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30, since CM Punk's contract might be coming up anyway. He needs to do a job at a big show. He can also be in the main event since he's the world champion, and he can put his good buddy, fellow independent kick-ass worker Daniel Bryan over on his way out the door. Could be a possibility. I think CM Punk will stick around, but if he's not going to renegotiate a contract until the summer, you can't put him over at WrestleMania. It's got to be the same situation they went through with him and Randy Orton a couple years ago. Right before he cut that good promo, you know, at WrestleMania, they didn't know if he was sticking around, so he did the job to Randy Orton. So this way, if he's not going to stick around, he can be champion going into WrestleMania. Paul Heyman said, CM Punk, one day you will walk down that aisle and main event WrestleMania. Maybe this is the one. Maybe he walks in as champion and drops it to Daniel Bryan. So whatever they plan on doing, I wouldn't get too upset yet because this is a meaningless month. December fucking sucks. The pay-per-view usually sucks. This is actually going to be a pretty meaningful one since you got two world titles being contested in the main event. But usually this pay-per-view means nothing, and it's not the type of platform or stage I think the WWE would want for a big-time title unifying moment like this. It doesn't seem right. So this obviously is going to stretch out, it's going to draw out, and there's going to be a lot more players involved. And even though your precious Daniel Bryan is working tag matches right now, he might be working main events in a very, very short amount of time. Nobody is being buried. You don't even know what the fucking term means. Oh, speaking of being buried, who the fuck did Ryback and Curtis Axel piss off? Yeah, 3 months ago they're Paul Heyman guys, now they're jobbers. Once they had that match last week with Big E and Curtis Axel, I knew that Curtis was going to drop that belt to him, and then they had the meaningless rematch at Survivor Series, which is another reason the pay-per-view sucked. I understand this is a rematch that had to happen. You know, storyline-wise, I'm sure Kurt has a clause in his contract. He needs to have a rematch. You know, but Survivor Series, we knew the outcome. This match was over before it started. Big E just won this belt. They're about to push him. They've soured on Curtis Axel. Do you think for 1 second that any fan sitting at home or sitting in the arena thought that Curtis Axel had any sort of a chance to regain his title and beat Big E Langston at Survivor Series? Fuck no. We knew what was going to happen there. He lost the Intercontinental title a couple of weeks ago. He got his ass kicked in the rematch at Survivor Series, and then he had a job again on Monday Night Raw when he teamed up with Ryback, who also seems to be in the doghouse. They're pushing him as the next big thing. Next thing you know, he's jobbing to everybody left and right. Mark Henry returns at Survivor Series and beats Ryback, you know, a guy that was used to launch Ryback earlier in the year. You know, Mark Henry was going to be Ryback's stepping stone. You know, instead, you know, Mark Henry returns with a kick-ass look with the shaved head and the beard. He looks awesome. Comes back at Survivor Series and smashes fucking Ryback. Then they go out on Raw and Mark Henry teams up with Big E Langston. You talk about a fucking tag team, a bad neighborhood you don't want to fuck with. Jesus. You know, those two monsters together. Mark Henry almost looks like he could be like a mentor to Big E. They're both big, similar style. You know, Big E's younger. You know, it almost gives Mark Henry something to do. I actually like the alliance. This alliance with Big E and Mark Henry makes a hell of a lot more sense than Big E hanging around Dolph Ziggler and AJ. I never understood that. You know, at least with Big E, he and Mark Henry have got some shit in common, and I think it could be a great pairing that probably could also eventually lead to a feud and have the student take down the teacher type of thing to help build Big E even more. So that's probably what's going to wind up happening there, and I'm really happy for Big E's push. The fans really seem to like him. I haven't heard anybody that really says anything negative about him. Everybody seems to like him a lot, so if you guys like him, I like him. I'm on the Big E bandwagon. I hope his title reign is a successful one, and I hope that the WWE is going to find some way to get this guy over and give him some opportunities because fans seem to be into him. As far as Ryback and Curtis Axel go, you know, I guess it's just their time to lose. Every now and then you see a guy, hell, Randy Orton, didn't he even go through it earlier this year after his second strike? He was jobbing to Wade Barrett, every fucking buddy, you know, on Raw. So it's just these guys' turn. From what I hear, they're trying to get Ryback's attitude in check. So if he's got to eat a little shit for a few months, I'm sure there's time for him to bounce back. The WWE has invested a lot of time and a lot of money in Ryback. I'm sure they're not just going to give up on him. They're probably just going to have him, make him eat a little dirt, you know, get him out of sight, out of mind for a while. He's not going to be involved in significant matches, mid-card on Raw at best, a lot of main event shit, and any other stupid TV show they have like that, and then he'll probably start, you know, rebuilding his run, you know, probably next year sometime. So until further notice, expect Curtis Axel and Ryback to be losing every time you fucking see him. Getting back to the Survivor Series now, the one highlight for me was exactly what I predicted in my last commentary. Remember the shitty one from last week? What did I say about the Shield's match? I said, you know what I would like to see? I would like to see one member of the Shield fucking destroy the other team and be the sole survivor and get himself over the same way Diesel got himself over in 1994. That is the exact thing that happened with Roman Reigns. I'm so glad it was him. I was hoping it was going to be him. That's why I mentioned Diesel. I was hoping that it would be Reigns that was the guy, you know, that just gets that Diesel or Batista push, you know, where they just go on a tear. You know, I really like Roman Reigns. I like him a lot better than Batista. You know, I think he's a lot less stiff. I think he's better in the ring. Of course, his bloodline goes back straight into the fucking Hall of Fame. So the kid's got it made, and he's huge, and he's good looking, and he's talented, and I think he can be great. And it was really nice to see Roman Reigns get his due. I'm ready for the Shield, you know, next year sometime to start going their separate ways, develop their own individual characters and their own individual runs. And I think Roman Reigns is going to be a huge player. You know, I think he can basically take over the spot that they were hoping a guy like Ryback would have. You know, I think Roman Reigns is going to be a good, powerful monster capable of having good matches. And when he finally does get his big push in the future and he comes face to face with John Cena, that's going to be some good shit. So I don't know about you, but I'm pretty much ready to get to the end of this year and get through this. You know, I can smell a mile away some sort of a schmoz ending, like I said, in the main event of the TLC match, because, you know, I mean, shit, what happens if one guy does win? You know, what happened if John Cena wins both belts or Randy Orton wins both belts? Doesn't that that mean that they're unified? So if they're going out of their way to tell everybody that they're not going to be unified, well, I don't know what the fucking difference is. If one guy has both, what's he going to do? Defend both belts at the same show in the same night at different times? You know, that's not going to fucking work. It's almost like he would have to surrender one of them to be competed for in a tournament or maybe at the Royal Rumble. And then if they did that, what's the point of having the fucking match to begin with if it didn't mean anything and one guy gave away a belt and it was contended for some other way? So what's the point of even having the match? So that's why I think the WWE is probably going to do what they've been doing a lot towards the end of this year, and that's giving us unresolved main events at pay-per-views. So I just wish we could skip all this shit and move on to the road to WrestleMania. I'm sure Daniel Bryan and CM Punk will also have some sort of a match involving all those Wyatts and fucking Shield guys. You know, we saw on Raw that the Wyatt family, I guess, kidnapped Daniel Bryan. The Shield came out and attacked CM Punk. The Wyatts came out, kidnapped Daniel Bryan, ran him to the back. Apparently they threw him in the trunk of a car and sped away, so I don't know where he is. I picture him in a basement somewhere with a ball gag in his mouth being tied up and butt-fucked by the Wyatt family, just like in Pulp Fiction. And then CM Punk busts through the door like Bruce Willis with a big sword and slices all the fuckers up and rescues them. In my head, that's what I see happening because I'm a sick fuck. So at least if WWE's just killing time, like I said, with CM Punk and Daniel Bryan, they'll probably give us some good and entertaining matches along the way. Now, before I get out of here, there's like 3 other things I want to talk about. One of them is that we suffered a couple of really devastating deaths this week, one in pro wrestling and one in entertainment. Family Guy has killed off Brian, the fucking dog. Can you goddamn believe that? I was shocked and, just devastated, fucking devastated. That dog's been one of my favorite characters on TV for I don't know how long, and those of you who watch the show know how insanely good and insanely clever it is. And I admire their balls for doing it. I mean, talk about adding a new dimension to the show. That's the brilliance of animation and cartoons, is that these characters don't age. That's why The Simpsons can be on for fucking 25 years. And for a cartoon to kill off a main character like that is a pretty big deal. I'm sure the show will still be hilarious. It's fucking great. It's got great writing. And sometimes shit like that is needed in television to shake things up. And I think that's all they were doing, but it is still pretty fucking sad. On a serious note, there was a really sad death in the world of pro wrestling. One of my favorites, a guy that I grew up watching, Mad Dog Vachon, passed away. This is not something that's one of those, oh, I'm so pissed off another wrestler's dead. Mad Dog was 84. It's nothing crazy. It's not like he died of steroids or drugs or anything like that. He was just an old man who was an amazing wrestling character. I've always been partial to those like crazier characters, those Mankinds, those Bruiser Brodies. Mad Dog was doing that before anybody, and he was a fucking lunatic. And it's a very sad death for me. I mean, he was a true legend. I grew up watching him in the AWA. He had already been wrestling he was a veteran back then, even when I was a child, but I would watch him in the AWA. That's where I remember him the most. Heart goes out to the rest of the Vachon family, and rest in peace. You were a legend, Mad Dog. And the final thing I want to comment on, actually the 2 final things, so I guess 2 more things. First of all, the year-end commentary. I'm getting close to giving you guys a release date. My plan is to have this thing uploaded a couple of days before Christmas, because I was thinking a lot of people hopefully are off for the holidays, are going to be spending a little bit more time at home and having a little bit more free time, and I think that would be a nice thing for you guys to be able to watch, during your time off from work or whatever it is you do. So my goal is to have it up sometime between the 20th and the 24th, and when I get closer to the day, I'll give you guys an exact date, but it's coming along nicely. It's really good. I've got all 100 questions just about ready, doing a lot of editing work now and piecing it all together, and it's coming along nice. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it, and I expect it to be close to 5 hours long, maybe longer, which wasn't my intention, but when you answer 100 questions, sometimes you tend to talk a little longer than you wanted to, and even though I try to keep things short and sweet and to the point, it's hard to do a 100 question commentary, in under 4 hours. It's tough. But I'm really excited to wrap this thing up and get it finished and be able to release it to you guys as my end-of-year present to you and all of my great listeners, subscribers, and followers. You guys are the best. Finally, speaking of subscribing to me, things got a little more difficult on YouTube recently, if you didn't notice. They are basically forcing you to create a Google Plus account, which I don't even know what the fuck a Google Plus account is. I know I don't want it. I don't understand the point, and it has affected how I've been able to retrieve some of my messages and shit like that, and everybody's been commenting about how pissed off that they are that they can no longer comment on videos in the same way. Well, after playing around with this for a while, what I've discovered is that all this is a minor inconvenience. Yes, it's stupid. I have no idea why YouTube wants to do this. Every time they change the layout, everybody gets pissed, but then everybody gets used to it, and I've really never had any problems with any of the changes that they've made. And if you ask me, one of the silver linings here is that some people might not not want to go through the hassle of starting the account, which means they can't comment and put a bunch of stupid fucking shit on the videos. Not that I care what you fucking say or do. You can argue with each other till the fucking cows come home. I could goddamn care less. All you're doing is giving me more and more views by going back and arguing with each other or giving me shit or anything like that, so do it all you want. But all these stupid people that live their lives by going around commenting on a whole bunch of fucking videos for no goddamn reason, starting fights and arguing with complete fucking strangers because, you know, there's nothing else to do in life. It's just a world out there. So a lot of that looks like it's going to go away with these new rules. And to me, that's a good thing. So what I've decided is that even though I find it horribly annoying that YouTube found it necessary to do this and force us to get an account we don't want or need, I'll do it and turn all the fucking notifications off, and it's not a big deal. So that is it for me for this week. I will probably only be up here another 2 to 3 times maximum before the big 100-question commentary comes out. So we are getting very close to the end of the year. And I can't promise I'll be up here next week because if I tune into Raw next week and it's a bunch of shit and nothing is really revealed about future plans and they're just building up this meaningless December pay-per-view and there's no new news coming out as far as what direction they're going with these 2 world titles. So basically what I'm saying is if shit just keeps sucking the way it's been sucking, I probably won't come up here next week. I will just continue to work on the year-end project. But if there's anything to talk about at all, I will come up and discuss it. But if not, you might not hear from me. So I'll catch you in a week or two. Peace.